US shopping malls are closing all over. Years of competing with online shopping and losing have shuttered mall stores, emptying out the hallowed halls of American consumerism. The pandemic proved to be the nail in the coffin for many malls, and by some estimates, there are only 700 malls left, down from a high of 2,500 in the 1980s. Some prognosticators predict that there will only be 150 malls left in 10 years. It seems the only visitors to malls these days are YouTubers filming eerie dead malls. Mall stores have also been dropping like flies. Mall staples like the Disney Store, Payless Shoes, and Pier 1 Imports are among the most ubiquitous chains that closed in the last 5 years, and major retailers like Sears are on their last legs. But don't worry, Hot Topic is still hanging on to the relief of moody mall goths everywhere. Malls have long been synonymous with car culture, the suburbs, and the gutting of downtown retail. The demise of malls is a long time coming and a good thing for cities. So that's the narrative floating around, but is it accurate? Well, I'm not going to lie to you and say that malls are thriving, but I think it's more fair to say that they're evolving and not dying. Is that a good thing for cities? Let's talk about it after the bike bell. I figured what better place to do a video on dying malls than, well, a dying mall. So here I am at Santa Maria Town Center. I actually did a video on this a while back because they destroyed half of their downtown to build this thing. But the more I look around, the more I realize that dying might actually not be a right word for this place. I mean, there are fewer national tenants than before, but there are now local businesses here and it's still shoppers. So what's exactly going on? How has this mall evolved? Well, like I said, malls have had a rough few years. The decline started before the pandemic, but the pandemic made things even worse. Dozens of malls have closed, but the change hasn't been massive. In 2023, 5.5% of all leasable retail space in the United States were in shopping malls, down from 5.7% in 2014. That's only 0.2%. Despite only being 5.5% of all retail space, they captured 13% of all brick-and-mortar retail spending. That's incredibly efficient, which speaks to how purpose-built malls are to take your money. They're basically consumerism machines. This is also why you don't see malls disappearing completely. They're just too good at what they do. Retail segment analysts divide malls into categories based on how wealthy their customers are. Top-tier malls cater to shoppers with annual incomes over $200,000 per year. Mid-tier malls cater to shoppers closer to $100,000 per year, and low-tier malls are for less affluent customers. The story of each of these mall types is diverging post-pandemic. High-tier malls are thriving. Their occupancy rates are above 95%, meaning that fewer than 5% of leasable area is vacant. This is essentially at or better than pre-pandemic levels. They're keeping their anchor stores and adding new tenants, including those from online, like Warby Parker, Peloton, Wayfair, and more. Luxury brands also flock to these centers. Mid-tier malls are holding their own and generally still have anchor tenants. The low-tier malls are the ones facing the most trouble. They're losing anchor tenants and facing declining sales. They have to lower rents to retain or attract retailers, which no doubt leads to situations like the one here, where local businesses can afford a storefront where before they were outcompeted by the likes of Bed Bath & Beyond. One of the craziest statistics I found is that foot traffic in malls is higher than it was pre-COVID, in some cases as much as 10% higher, and that's across all tiers of malls. What's going on here? Well, I think part of this is a thinning of the herd, a survival of the fittest, to continue the animal kingdom metaphor. Many malls will die, but some will continue on and thrive. And we might be overdue for this thinning of the herd for a while now. The United States is generally considered over-retailed. We have almost 3 times the amount of leasable retail area per person than they have in Europe. In the era of online shopping, this difference seems more shocking and egregious than ever. So some malls are closing, but most aren't. And even the struggling malls are still staying alive. Some are pivoting to lower rent tenants like this mall here, while others are considering adaptive reuse, which is the principle of, well, adapting and reusing the mall for other purposes. It's basically the opposite of complete demolition and redevelopment, which is occurring we'll talk about later in the video. But let's focus on adaptive reuse for a minute. This is where the physical mall building remains, even if all the stores are gone. Now, you think this might be easy to do. Malls aren't complicated structures, but as we heard earlier, the simplicity is deceiving, as malls are built to be some of the most efficient machines for consumerism humans have ever devised. They're almost like casinos, trying to keep you inside them as long as possible. One way they do this is by not having any windows. It's hard to see time pass without them, but pretty much every other mall use would like to have windows. So some amount of structural work needs to happen to punch openings through the envelope. And this is just one example of challenges of reusing malls. There are examples of reuses that have been somewhat successful. Malls are basically hallways with rooms off the hallway, which pretty much describes schools. A high school in Burlington, Vermont moved into the Macy's of its abandoned mall when the school district found traces of toxic chemicals in the soil of their old building. Students can take escalators to class, while Burlington builds a new school somewhere else. A community college in Austin completely adapted a shopping mall site in Austin, Texas. Highland Mall was built in 1971 as the first shopping mall in the Austin area. But by 2009, it was on the decline and closed its doors in 2015. Austin Community College purchased the property back in 2012, and in 2014 had already renovated the JCPenney department store into an education center. The rest of the mall is continuing to be adapted, and the former parking lots have been redeveloped into mixed-use development, including Austin's PBS station and the City of Austin's Permitting and Development Center. Now, not all malls are going to get the adaptive reuse treatment. Some of those struggling malls are just going to get the wrecking ball. But what's interesting is that some of those demolished malls are rising from the rubble as a new mall. It's like Gandalf the Grey coming back as Gandalf the White. For example, the old Crossroads Mall in Omaha closed in 2020 after 60 years in business. It was immediately demolished to make way for a new development scheduled to open in 2025. Here's a look at the concept video. It's basically just another mall, just outdoors with some mixed-use development surrounding it. There will be 400 homes on the site and 500,000 square feet of office uses, but the centerpiece will be a 200,000 square foot outdoor mall complex. Hilldale Shopping Center in Madison, Wisconsin reused the property by adding buildings and created a shopping street directly outside the mall, parallel to the interior corridor. So instead of shopping inside, you can shop outside in Wisconsin. If you look at all the dead mall content out there, it's easy to believe that in a few years, no suburban shopping malls will remain. But as long as people like to drive their cars to a place where they can park for free and visit multiple shops in the same trip, there will be shopping malls. Online shopping can't kill the mall, the pandemic can't kill the mall, millennials can't kill the mall, but malls might have to adapt to stay relevant, which is what's happening. So is the continued survival of malls a good thing for US cities? Well, I think it's a pretty complicated issue. In general, if malls are adaptively reused in a way that sort of adds additional uses, perhaps redevelops their parking lots, I think that can be a good thing. It's a low-cost, low-carbon way of reusing these structures, and that's not a small thing. Obviously, we all want to see these malls be demolished and sort of replaced with the best-in-class urbanism, but in some cases that's just not feasible. And in the meantime, adaptive reuse is not a bad way to go. Now, I must admit that growing up, I didn't live near a shopping mall. I lived in a pretty rural area of Wisconsin. So for me, a trip to the mall was just 1 or 2 times a year, maybe to go school shopping. So I still have a bit of almost a nostalgia for these malls because for me, it was a very special occasion to visit them. And they're definitely a part of American culture. So there's part of me that hesitates to even see these go at all, but I certainly think they can be put to better use thanks to adaptive reuse, mixed-use development, and sort of a reduction in the use of automobiles to get to them. As a side note here, I'm happy to see that Santa Maria Town Center, while not exactly thriving, is certainly surviving thanks in part to its relationship with small independent businesses. Maybe I'm drawn to this model because I love Nebula, a streaming service built by small independent creators producing thoughtful content.
Because we're filled with thoughtful creators, we have some pretty smart features built into Nebula. First of all of my videos posted on YouTube are already up early on at Nebula. That means you can sign up for Nebula right now and watch my next video without waiting a few weeks for it to appear on YouTube. That's pretty great already. Nebula also has no ads, making the entire viewing experience better for you, and it also makes it better for the creator because we're able to produce Nebula original series that can focus on being great instead of being great at pleasing the YouTube algorithm. These are passion projects that answer the question, what would videos from great creators look like if they had more resources to do that thing? 2023 was a great year for Nebula Originals. I even put out a Nebula Original series called Great Cities that profiles some of the most influential cities right at the inflection points that made them great. You can learn about why Venice built canals and why New York built Central Park. It's some of my best work because Nebula provided additional resources, and it's only available there. There is so much great exclusive content on the platform right now, too. The ever-popular Jet Lag series starring the crew from Wendover Productions and Half as Interesting just wrapped up a season featuring Michelle Carre. For those who don't know, it's like a travel game show that's incredibly addictive and tailor-made for anyone who likes my channel. Real Life Lore continues to publish excellent episodes of their modern conflict series, like their most recent on the Yugoslav wars of the 1990s. Real Science has a series where 2 amateur naturalists try to survive using only tools from the Paleolithic. In all, Nebula offers you, the viewer, an ad-free experience filled with videos produced by a curated group of thoughtful YouTubers. And those thoughtful creators are also publishing big-budget, high-quality exclusive content. And you get all of this for a surprisingly affordable price. When you sign up at my link, nebula.tv/citybeautiful, you'll get 40% off an annual subscription. My channel will even get a portion of that subscription fee as long as you stay subscribed. So it's one of the best ways to support me and this channel. If you want to go above and beyond, we offer lifetime memberships for $300. You pay once, then never again. It's our way of making sure we don't take on outside investors as we continue to produce new, amazing, exclusive content. You are the investors, and we can keep working to make the service better for you. I love that we can offer both a reasonably priced subscription for most people and the option for those who want to provide more support.
Signing up for Nebula is one of the best ways you can support me, this channel, and the dozens of other thoughtful creators working to make Nebula a success. It's also just one of the best value deals in streaming for what you get. So go click on the link on screen or in the description and get a discount for signing up. Now I'm gonna go hit the food court and get myself some Dairy Queen.